Hello, and welcome to Building Leadership Community Podcast. I'm your host, Dora Mendez. I am the founder and CEO of Coach Dora LLC. Our guests will be entrepreneurs, small business owners, and community leaders that drive social impact. It can be lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to be. Welcome. Thank you for listening and viewing our podcast. If you're new to Building Leadership Community, thank you for joining us. This season is all about supporting you on your inclusive leadership journey. It can be lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to be. This episode is a conversation with a successful small business owner, Concetta Raz, founder and CEO of Upward On, your go-to executive recruiter in real estate. I found that making friends as an adult is challenging. Staying friends with people you knew when you were young over the decades is also challenging. You lose touch, life happens, moves, marriages. And for me, thanks to Facebook, I've kept in touch with our guests through the years. I'm so lucky to have maintained loyal and amazing friends that I met in high school. Shout out to St. Vincent Farrah in New York City. All the Farrah girls out there, shout out. We're a very special group of amazing women who really have just proved that Catholic schoolgirls rock. Today's guest is a leader whom I'm proud to call my friend since those high school days at Farrah. Concetta was the first entrepreneur to reach out to me as a business owner to offer support when I launched Coach Dora LLC in March of 2024. So I hope you will connect with Concetta at Upward On for your executive recruiting needs in real estate, and also follow her brilliant Tuesday tips on hiring and getting hired. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Concetta. Welcome, Concetta. Thank you so much for being here on Building Leadership Community.
Thank you, Laura.
I'm so happy that you're here. As you know, Building Leadership Community, all our guests are entrepreneurs, small business owners, and leaders of organizations that create community and social impact. And so thank you so much for being here. So welcome to all our listeners and viewers. So Concetta, here's our first prompt. We'd love for you to share your leadership story and tell us about your unique career trajectory.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dora. It's so exciting to be here. And I'm really honored that you asked me to come and share my experience with you. As you so eloquently described, I own a company called Upward On, which I founded about 7 years ago after taking numerous years of experience in the real estate industry, really mentoring, coaching, hiring, finding talent in the real estate space. And I did that for almost 2 decades. And I did it for other companies. And after some time, I had this sort of itch to start my own company. And what I really wanted to do was to take my experience in real estate, take my passion for helping people on their career trajectory, and combine that with the contacts and the people that I had met throughout the years, and help people really create a better tomorrow for themselves. You know, I think the statistic is we spend a third of our lives at work, although it feels like a lot more than that. And, and I always thought, if we're spending so much time somewhere, we should really have a choice, where we are and what we're doing. And, when I called my company Upward On, our tagline is aim high, move upward, because I really feel that, people need to empower themselves with the choices that they make, particularly when it comes to their work. And so my goal is to always help people um, just create a better experience for themselves work wise. And I apply that to the candidates that I work with, as well as the companies that I work with. I'm always trying to help them find people that will really make their companies just be better and grow and thrive. So that's a little bit about, my background and how I got started.
Fantastic. And that's why you're here with Building Leadership Community. Your mission is aligned with that, with ours here at Coach Dora LLC. And so our next conversation prompt is really leadership can be lonely and isolating. So we love for you to share why community is important and how you build that. And this is your opportunity to share some wellness tips as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it is true. I mean, it can be very isolating when you're an entrepreneur, especially in the beginning when you're trying things out. For myself, everything in the beginning was very much bootstrapped, from coming up with my logo to my website to even, my due diligence around the agreement that I was going to, to use. Um, and so in the beginning, it can be very lonely, but I find that as an entrepreneur, I find community in a myriad of ways. One is first, that, you've already amassed some friends, so to speak, and contacts in your industry, right? So I have, people that I go to bounce ideas, off of, people that I'll reach out to if I have a question, and that was really important for me as well in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, was really having those conversations with people. So even though I was alone, I always think back to the people that helped me in the beginning, because I was reaching out and saying, I'm starting this new venture. This is this is my idea. What do you think? Can I pick your brain? Can we have a coffee? And and I found that people were really willing to help. They were excited, and they wanted to see me succeed. So I think it's really important for anyone that's starting out is ask a lot of questions, reach out to the people that create sort of this unofficial board of directors for yourself, of people that you admire and respect in your industry that you can call on, that will be there to help, whether it's bounce ideas off of, or whether it's to, even ask for help. Some of these people ended up hiring me. So, even though entrepreneurship can be lonely, it doesn't have to be. And you absolutely have to put yourself out there and go for the ask, because everyone is busy. And even though people will want you to succeed at the same time, like if you don't ask for help, you might not get it willingly. So that's sort of my advice, is to just ask, especially the people that and sometimes it's even people that you don't know so well, but maybe you admire and respect. um I have found that people are always looking to lend a hand if you ask.
Thank you for sharing that. And of course, going back to your friends from high school to help.
Yep.
One of I just have a follow up question to community, because one of the things you did for me as I was starting this business um, and pivoting from being a long time executive at nonprofit organization and then pivoting to being a solopreneur. Um, you helped me by inviting me to join a networking organization. Which was really great for me. That really, first, number one, I felt great that you felt confident that I was someone that you believed in, that you believed could, that you wanted to like show off to your network. So that really made me feel really great. So can you tell us a little bit about that networking community, how that's helped you, and why you're a part of that community?
Yes, absolutely. So, the networking community that you're referring to is called BNI. It's Business Networking International, and we meet weekly. Um, it is a group designed solely for networking and giving referrals. So it's really wonderful the way it's created because you get to know other people, you get to know their businesses, and you get the opportunity to refer people that are accredited, people that are professional, that you would absolutely have no qualms referring if if someone has a need. And the nice thing about it is that there's one person per category. So, coaches, as an example, we have several coaches, but we have, one business coach, we have one health coach. We, have an opening for a diversity, equity, and inclusion coach, if you know of anyone. But the one thing I love about BNI is as an entrepreneur and as someone who works independently, BNI is almost like my work family in a way because I don't, even though I do go to an office, it's not like I'm in a corporate environment. When, you're working in corporate, you have your colleagues, you have, your people that you go out for drinks with, and that, you have your work friends. And when you're an entrepreneur, particularly your solopreneur, a lot of times, it's me, myself, and I. And then, as I mentioned, my unofficial board of directors. But BNI, it does act as an extended work family for me. So it's nice to have that community. Again, the professional development, the business development, and just collaborating, getting together with people. I happen to also be on their membership committee, so that allows me an opportunity to volunteer my time, which is also very important to me. So it fills a lot of buckets for me being a part of that networking community.
Wonderful. So you kind of alluded to this earlier, but I wanted you to share advice with the next generation of leaders. What would you tell your younger self when you started early in your career?
Oh, that's such a great question. I have to say, I am going to share the advice that my mentor gave me when I was starting my career in real estate over 20 years ago. So, I started as a real estate agent in 1998. And my mentor was a really old school Brooklyn guy, you know, really great manager, but very kind of brusque. Um, and he would always encourage me to get out. And, he would always say, just go there. And what he meant by that was whatever I was working on, whether I was working on a deal with someone or whether I was, thinking about a property, he would always encourage me to get out and go and see it. And it's this advice that I've carried throughout my career. And it's really helped me because even now, as a recruiter, where most of my work is, on the internet, sourcing, going through LinkedIn, meeting with candidates, I still like to meet clients face to face. I like to just go there. I go into their offices and I meet with them, and it really brings this personalized attention. And they're often um, kind of surprised that as a recruiter, I would want to go there because I guess most recruiters don't do that. But I find it very important for me to understand the client, their culture, and to, connect with people. And this advice that Larry gave me, back way back then, it's I have literally brought it to every job. prior to starting my company, I was the senior vice president of leasing and marketing for a large developer in New York City, large landlord. And one of the first things I did on the job was I went out to all the different brokerages in New York City and I went out and I introduced our portfolio. And it was really uncommon. No one did that. The only reason why I did it was because I wanted to really connect with people and I wanted to show them our product and invite them to come and visit us. And, this advice that Larry gave me I have applied to every single job, was really going out and connecting with people. I bring it to this modern day, we are in this era of Zoom and virtual meetings, and coming through COVID, a lot of people have, gotten their degrees online, they've graduated online. A lot of, people coming out of university. I hear so many candidates, they want remote work or they want hybrid work. And I still have this, just go there mentality because I think that being face to face really gives you an opportunity to connect with people in a way that being behind a screen never does. So I know it might be a bit counterculture, it might be a bit old fashioned, but I think Larry's advice of just go there is probably, my best advice that I could give someone that's young and starting their careers.
Just go there. I love that. That's a great way to end the segment. So, thank you so much for having this conversation with me about your career trajectory, your leadership story, the leadership community that you've built. Just go there. And so, so can you tell us where to find you, your website, and your social media habits for our
Yes,
listeners
yes,
and viewers?
yes. So luckily, my name, Concetta Raz, is pretty unique. So you can find me on Instagram at Concetta Raz. That's the handle. My company name is Upward On, and you can find me at upwardon.com. Same goes for LinkedIn, Concetta Raz, and Upward On is also on LinkedIn. And that's it, Concetta Raz at Upward On. I'm sorry. My email is Concetta at upwardon.com.
Okay, there you have it. Thank you, Concetta, for being here. Just go there.
Thanks, Dora.
You've been listening to Building Leadership Community. Watch on YouTube at Coach Dora and listen wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube at Coach Dora and visit me on the web at CoachDoraMendez.com. Hosted by me, Dora Mendez. Produced by Dora Mendez and Dylan Rogers. Graphics, editing, and sound mixing by Dylan Rogers.